What a win by the Packers on Sunday, defeating the Cardinals 34-13. I know I saw a lot of people discounting this win. Not Packers fans, of course, fans of other teams, mainly NFC North. I certainly wouldn't discount this win. Now, if you beat a lesser team by 3 points, maybe that's a win you don't feel as good about. But the Packers took care of business. I mean, anytime you can score over 30 points and hold your opponent to 13 points, that is huge. Forcing 3 turnovers, of course, coming off of 3 fumbles, which we'll kind of talk on the defense a little bit more. But man, a good team is supposed to take care of business. They don't choose their opponents just because it's maybe what is deemed a lesser team by others. Does not matter. You take care of your opponents. I feel like in previous years, whenever we would see the Packers go against a team that you're supposed to win, it was always way too close, or it was the team would upset us. Now, I don't think the Cardinals are that bad. They obviously have some weapons. It just didn't seem like their day, and that's fine. That's how life goes. But the Packers took care of business. They didn't let the Cardinals back into the game, which I was concerned about at the end of the first half, as many of you probably were. But it was nice to see. Unbelievable game plan by Matt LaFleur. You saw probably one of his best coach games, at least this season. Now, I don't want to say it was the best coach game because we saw him put together 2 incredible game plans when you had Malik playing as the starting quarterback. But that was an incredible game plan by the Packers. You saw the team always keep it third and manageable. You didn't really see third and longs at all. We talked about last week how the prior week you saw the Packers get into a lot of third and longs that made life a lot more difficult than it needed to be. And that was the opposite case this week. On second and long, you saw the team maybe do a check down or an easier completion, allow them to pick up a big chunk of yards and make it a third and manageable as opposed to a 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, something that's a little bit more of a difficult thing to convert on. So hats off to LaFleur. That was as a fan, that was like one of my favorite games I've seen him coach in a little while. Now, Matt's a great coach. He does so many great things. So I very well could be overlooking some great games he's coached, but that was a great one. Jordan Love, have yourself a day, my friend. Ended the day with 258 yards, 4 touchdowns, and unfortunately that interception where Bo Melton slipped towards the end of the first half. Not on Love's fault. Of course, that's just how the NFL goes. That's how football games go. Players slip, mistakes happen in that regard, but Arizona could not get home no matter what they wanted to do. So that made life a whole lot easier for Jordan, allowed him to kind of sit back and pick it apart. You kind of see his knee seems like it's getting better. You saw him roll out. You saw him able to escape the pocket numerous times and get first down with his legs, which is huge. Once you're starting to see that mobility come back, that's an incredible thing to have for your quarterback and something that we've been limited on for the last few weeks. I saw a stat. I saw a few different stats here that I'm going to talk about. He's put together 8 straight games with 2 touchdowns or more, which is the longest streak in the NFL. And he's the first quarterback to put back-to-back 4 touchdown passes. Or I should say he's the first Packers quarterback to put together back-to-back 4 touchdown passes at home since Brett Favre did it in 1995. Anytime you can put yourself in a bucket with Brett Favre or Aaron Rodgers, I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing to be in the same category as a Hall of Famer. I do think that's a little cherry picked because it's like back-to-back home games, where I'm sure Rodgers did it, but maybe one was an away game. Either way, to have back-to-back 4 touchdown games, very great. And Jordan took care of the ball this time. Last week we saw him put 4 touchdowns, but he also threw 3 interceptions. I think that was last week. Pretty sure that was last week. I don't know. I feel like it's all starting to kind of blend together now at this point. But I'm pretty sure he had a few turnovers last week. And then despite missing 2 games this season, he is second in the NFL with 12 touchdowns, tied for second with 12 touchdowns. He's tied with Joe Burrow, right behind Baker Mayfield at 15 touchdowns. It's an impressive way to start the kind of season in your 4 games that you've played. I'm excited to see kind of everything start gelling maybe a bit earlier than we saw last year, and you're going to need it this year in this division. We welcomed Romeo Dobbs back, of course. You know, you saw him come back off his 1-game suspension. Thankfully, he had a great game. I was worried that if he maybe didn't have the greatest game, you're going to see people being terrible human beings online. But he had 2 great touchdowns. The first one, I thought for sure he was going to drop it with the conditions outside in the rain and kind of how it's a fingertip catch and the defender kind of fighting with it. I thought for sure that thing was getting dropped. Able to hold on to it and then extend out for the touchdown. But even more impressive was that second touchdown. That second touchdown where Love's thrown off his back foot, sends it about 35 yards. Romeo, just looking back, makes a nice adjustment to the ball that the defensive back doesn't know to make that adjustment because he's paying attention to Romeo. Made it look so easy to just stop on a dime, catch it, and walk into the end zone. So that was, I don't know about you guys at home, but I was definitely yelling about that one in my living room, like mind blown that happened. So, um, this is going to be me venting here for a little bit. I've seen a lot of people online because I posted about Romeo, how happy I was for him in the welcome back Romeo and the great touchdowns and just happy for him. The amount of comments I saw of people were like, he needs to smile more. Why isn't he smiling? Why is he so serious? That's just how Romeo is. I don't think it has anything to do with the suspension. I don't think it has anything to do with whatever, he potentially has going on. That's just how Romeo is. If you look back over the few years now that we've had him, or the 2.5 years that we've had him since we drafted him in 2022, that's how Romeo is. Some people are just stoic. You saw that from Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders would make 9 guys on a defense look like fools. He would run into the end zone. He would hand the ball to the referee and just jog back to the sideline. No celebration, no excitement. Some guys are just like that. Romeo is one of those guys. He's just there for business. He's there. He embraces with his teammates and then gets back to the sideline. That's okay. That's just how Romeo is. I don't think it's I think it's kind of weird to just be like, "Oh, you need to smile more." Like, I feel like if I went to work and I did something good and my boss or coworkers are like, "Hey man, you need to smile more." I feel like that would just like irritate me even more. So I just think that's an odd statement to make, but I saw way too many people make that comment. If you want to see, go back in some of my posts and look. The amount of people that are like, he needs to smile, is just unbelievable. Anyway, I'm off that rant. Sorry, just had to rant a little bit. Packers defense. We talked about the 3 turnovers, forcing 3 fumbles. Even more impressive, I thought. I shouldn't say more impressive. Even as impressive in my eyes was how they contained Kyler Murray. They held him to 14 yards off of 7 attempts, which is pretty impressive considering what he can do with his legs. I saw someone say that Kyler Murray runs like a toddler who has something he shouldn't. And since my son is kind of in that stage now where he's kind of walking quicker, I visually can't unsee it now. So I thought I would share that with you. But Kyler just kind of scrambles. He's quick. He runs like a toddler who has something he shouldn't. He's a very elusive quarterback. And for the Packers to play the way they did, keep their eyes on Kyler while covering the field was so impressive. That one where it was the read option and he broke out and Evan Williams played that thing, like my mind blew right there, because in the past, I feel like the Packers have never been able to contain a running quarterback. And to see Evan square shoulders and stay level with him, not overreact to which way he's going, and just kind of put flat foot, stand there, make him be a decisive in what he's going to do and pursue from there. But it made Kyler hesitate enough to actually have other defenders swarm him and made it for an easier time to stop him. Absolutely stunning job there. And that second half, it seems like they've been adapting so nice in the last 4 games that I'm so excited to see what continues to go on. I'm still a little like, over the years, you've been burned so many times by bad defenses that I'll text Chad during the game and be like, oh, I just don't know. Watch them convert this third down here, this third and forever. And then the Packers stop them from converting. So now at this point, I feel like I've jinxed it if I don't say it, but I still feel like I can't be excited yet, even though I am excited. Defense, another fun stat, defense has produced 2 or more turnovers in the first 6 games so far this season. First time that's happened since 1996, which I feel like 1996 rings true. Like the Packers did something big that year, like end of 29-year championship drought against the New England Patriots in Super Bowl 31. I feel like that's what they did in 1996. No, I'm not saying the Packers this year are going to win the championship Super Bowl because of the fact that they're doing something they did in 1996 when they won a Super Bowl. But it just goes to show the defense is doing a lot of good things, considering 1996 had a number 1 ranked defense. Now, the defense currently gives up a lot more yardage to be number 1 ranked, but things are trending in the right direction, and that's just great to see. There's a lot of season left, though. It's nice to see. Talking about this season here and things that we're seeing, but I couldn't help but just be impressed with the job Gutekunst has done as well. Over the last 3 years, he's really drafted some incredible draft classes that have really shaped this team to what it is. 2020 was a horrid draft class for him. You thankfully had Jordan Love come out of that made it somewhat of a redeemable draft class now. But other than that, I think AJ Dillon might be the only one that's still on the team. I could be wrong, but AJ Dillon, there might be one other. I don't remember if Slayton's from that draft class or not, but either way, Jordan has saved that draft class. Still not the greatest. You'd like to get more productivity than just a quarterback, but in the NFL, quarterback's a huge thing to hit on. So we'll take that. No. Slayton was 2021. Sorry about that. But yes, 2021 was Stokes, Myers, Slayton, and McDuffie. Oh, and that's kind of aging now a little bit better. In the last couple of years, it looked like an even worse draft class. Stokes is still kind of a liability. Obviously, he's had his injuries. That makes things a little bit rockier. But Myers, I don't know. He's up and down as well. Slayton, McDuffie's getting a lot of playing time as a linebacker, and he's looked pretty positive in a lot of ways, especially for a late round guy. But then you get into 2022, 23, and 24, and boy, that's when things kind of change for the better. 22, you got Quay Walker, who's he'll have moments where he just looks so great. And then you'll have moments where he's just kind of a liability. And I think he's maybe still growing in this defense. I'm certainly not, we talked about it last week. I'm certainly not like ready to give up on him by any means. I know Jason asked about that, like where I saw Quay. He's got a lot of promise, and I hope we see that kind of continue to come out of him. Devontae Wyatt was part of that draft class as well. And you can notice when he's not on the field, the disruption on that defensive line is just not there the same way, especially this year. It feels like he's taking a big splash, but he was taken in 22. You have Christian Watson, of course, which had a touchdown on Sunday. He does so much that he doesn't get credit for by taking the top off of a defense. Sean Ryan, who's done a great job on the line. Romeo Doubs, of course, 2 touchdowns on Sunday. Really great route runner, really great hands, fantastic receiver. Zach Tom, can't say enough about him. Zach Tom's just an absolute stud. Kingsley Engelbar and Rasheed Walker. Rasheed's obviously a big part of our offensive line as well, and Engelbar's great depth on that defensive line. So 22 is an outstanding draft class. 23, LVN, jury's still out on him, still waiting for him to kind of take that leap. Musgrave, who's a solid tight end, dealing with injuries this year. Jaden Reed, I guess he's an okay receiver. I mean, he makes a play every once in a while, right? No, Jaden Reed, dog. Very happy to have him. Tucker Kraft, who's been incredible. Colby Wooden and Carl Brooks both just seem to get to the quarterback. Dontavian Wicks was a 5th round steal, and then Carrington Valentine, a 7th round steal. So hell of a draft class there. And then 2024 is already looking great. Jordan Morgan, who's been starting in the guard when he wasn't injured, he obviously had a shoulder injury that sidelined him for a little bit. Edrin Cooper, I almost said Edrin James. Edrin Cooper honestly looks like he's inside linebacker one. When he plays and he's on the field, he looks like such a just a dominant player on that defense. And the way he reads things, the way he reacts, I'm happy to see he's starting to get more and more playing time. It's very well deserved. Javon Bullard, uh, Evan Williams, both of those guys are getting a lot of playing time, and it's showing. They're incredible on the field. We need Cooper, Williams, and Bullard on the field, I feel like, at all times, because they're just playmakers. Marshawn Lloyd looked great until his injury sidelined him a little bit. I'm excited to see what he does. And then Tyron Hopper looked incredible in the preseason. I'm excited to see him continue to develop. But already 2024 draft class is looking like a great draft class. So that'd be 3 draft classes back to back to back that Goots put together some strong draft classes for, which you're seeing the results now. You have young guys that are making big plays, that are making positive impacts on the game and allowing the Packers to win games. So incredible. Now, if we have to talk about negatives, obviously Braden Arvison, that's a negative. That my notes was like, oh, going to talk about like what should we do? But the Packers obviously have answered that. They have released Braden and brought in Brandon. That's fun. Brandon. And then the only other like thing I'm nitpicking on is the stupid penalties. Excuse me. We saw that play by the Cardinals just before the second half where they'd have been looking at like a 3rd and 2. Instead, Jair had after the play penalty that gave him 15 yards and a free first down, kind of derailed the momentum they had on that defensive drive. Maybe you stop them on the 3rd and 2, and now they're punting the ball away. And rather than letting them score 7, which led to 10 before half, maybe that just doesn't happen at all. So, I mean, if that's my nitpicking of the game, that's a pretty good game.